Ever get that feeling? Like when
Yeah.
you're online, someone's peeking over your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all been there,
Mm.
especially those of us, drawn to apps like Telegram,
Right.
the ones that promise to keep our digital whispers, hush hush.
Yeah. It was their bread and butter, really. Telegram's entire reputation as this fortress of privacy. That's what pulled in millions of users seeking secure messaging.
Right. It was like the digital equivalent of a secret handshake.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets
Hmm.
interesting. The Hacker News just dropped a bombshell.
Uh-oh.
Telegram is changing their tune on data sharing. And for folks who value their privacy, it's a big one.
Yeah, no kidding. This is a complete 180 from their previous stance. To grasp the weight of this, we need to rewind a bit. Remember, Telegram built its brand by being the anti-Facebook swore-off sharing user data.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And it worked. People flocked to them for that very reason.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're agreeing to hand over user data to authorities for criminal investigations.
Wow.
And it's not just metadata we're talking about.
Yeah, this is where the technical details get really important. We're talking IP addresses, which can reveal your location and even potentially your identity. And of course, phone numbers, which, let's face it, are tied to practically every aspect of our digital lives these days.
Okay, so we're not just talking about them reading your messages. This is like handing over the keys to your digital house.
It is.
And to be fair to Telegram, they're saying this will only happen under a valid legal request for folks suspected of violating their terms of service.
Right. And to understand the gravity of this change, we need to compare it to their previous policy. Before, this level of data sharing was reserved solely for suspected terrorists. Now it seems the net has widened considerably.
And that begs the question, what exactly constitutes a valid legal request? It all feels a bit vague, doesn't it?
It does, and it highlights a critical concern, the potential for misuse. How can Telegram guarantee this data won't be accessed improperly or used beyond the scope of a specific investigation?
And even more importantly, will this actually be effective in combating crime? Or are we sacrificing user privacy for something that might not even work?
These are the million-dollar questions, and unfortunately, we don't have all the answers yet. But one thing is for sure, this is a slippery slope, and it has implications far beyond just Telegram. Yeah.
It's like trying to balance on a seesaw, right? Trying to balance that security and privacy.
But Telegram is trying to reassure users, though. They are emphasizing transparency with all this.
They are. Yeah, they've committed to reporting these data disclosures, which is a step in the right direction, I suppose. And they're highlighting how this data will help combat spam and abuse on the platform, which, you know, let's be honest, that's been kind of a problem for Telegram.
Yeah, spam bots, no one's favorite thing. But even so, will these measures actually soothe the worries of those who specifically chose Telegram for its, fortress-like privacy?
That's the heart of the matter, isn't it?
Hmm.
This situation sort of underscores a much broader issue, the mounting pressure that we're seeing on tech giants to become like digital police officers,
Hmm.
particularly when it comes to criminal activity on their platforms. Yeah, it's a tightrope walk for sure.
Yeah.
We want safer online spaces, but not at the expense of our privacy.
Precisely. And it gets even more complex when we factor in those recent events surrounding Telegram. Let's not forget the arrest of Pavel Durov, Telegram's CEO in France.
Right. That whole ordeal just added another layer to this whole story. Didn't the authorities allege that Telegram was turning a blind eye to criminal activity?
That was the accusation, yeah. That Telegram wasn't doing enough to crack down on some illicit activities happening, right under their noses. Durov was later released on bail. But the investigation is ongoing, which, keeps the pressure on.
And then there's the Ukrainian government's decision to ban Telegram for government and military personnel.
Yeah.
They cited national security concerns, which makes you wonder about the scale of this whole issue.
Absolutely. The Ukrainian ban combined with Durov's arrest, it paints kind of an unsettling picture. It suggests that Telegram might have become a haven for something a lot more serious than your average spam bot.
Okay, now we're getting into like thriller territory. It's very cloak and dagger.
Hmm.
But are we drawing connections where there are none? Is there actually a link between these events and Telegram's sudden about-face on data sharing?
It's certainly a question worth considering. It's entirely possible that Telegram, feeling the pressure coming from all sides, decided to get ahead of any further legal trouble by making this policy change
A preemptive strike.
a strategic maneuver to appease the authorities, perhaps. But what does this mean for other tech companies? What if a platform as privacy-focused as Telegram is caving to this pressure? Are we watching the start of a domino effect? That's the million-dollar question. And it's a chilling thought for anyone who values their online privacy. If Telegram, with its reputation for being so secure, is shifting gears, what does that say about the future of truly private communication online?
Are we looking at a future where end-to-end encryption, the very technology that makes platforms like Telegram so secure, becomes a relic of the past? Makes you think.
It does.
It really does. So much to unpack here. On one hand, you've got governments like really increasingly concerned about what's going on in these encrypted spaces. And on the other, you have people who just want to chat, share, exist online without a spotlight on their every move.
Yeah, it's a classic case of like competing interests. And unfortunately, there are no easy answers. But to your point about end-to-end encryption, I think it would help if we define that for our listeners. Imagine like a digital tunnel where only you and the person you're talking to have the keys. That's essentially what end-to-end encryption offers, a level of privacy that even the platform itself can't break.
So even Telegram wouldn't be able to read those messages, even if they wanted to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now imagine if governments start forcing tech companies to build in backdoors into that encryption, like ways to get around that security for, legitimate investigations. That's what has people worried. And it's not just a what if. We've seen this whole debate play out before.
Yeah, and it's a big one. Where do we draw the line? How do we balance the need to investigate these serious crimes with everyone's fundamental right to privacy? It feels like we're constantly being asked to choose between two rights.
It is a delicate balancing act. And this whole Telegram thing really highlights how precarious that balance is. If a company like Telegram, known for being like really, really into privacy, is willing to bend, it makes you wonder about other platforms.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we headed to a world where, like, true privacy online, it's a luxury, something only tech people can figure out?
It's a sobering thought. And it really underscores why informed consent is so important. When these platforms change their privacy policies, especially changes as big as this one, users need to be in the know, not with some like legal mumbo jumbo buried in the settings, but a clear explanation of what's changing and why it matters.
So for our listeners, what can they do? Besides maybe ditching technology and, like, living in the woods?
Well, becoming a digital hermit, that's not really an option for most of us.
Sure.
But there are things you can do. First, stay informed. Pay attention to the privacy policies of the platforms you use and like any changes they announce. Second, explore your options. There are still privacy-focused platforms out there. Whether they can withstand all the pressure, though, that remains to be seen.
It's like walking through a minefield. You never know where to step.
You got it.
But knowledge is power.
Absolutely. The more you understand these issues, the better equipped you'll be to make good decisions about your life online. Because that's what it comes down to, making choices about how much of yourself you want to share online.
And maybe just as important, making your voice heard. Supporting groups fighting for digital rights and privacy. Engaging in these conversations. These are ways to push back against, losing our privacy online.
Well said. Because ultimately, the future of the internet, how we balance security and privacy, it's not something that'll be decided for us. It's something we need to shape.
You heard it here, folks. This whole Telegram situation, it's a wake-up call, a big one. The digital world with all its perks, it comes at a price. How much are we willing to pay? Something to think about. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay private.